Welcome to Our View. I am the producer and host, Lorrie Hull Smithers, and this show plays on Channel 17, TV Santa Barbara, on Sunday at 3:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., Monday at 7 a.m., Thursday at 5:30, Thursday at 8:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 p.m. And I am just so pleased today to have as our guest Cathy Boggs. Welcome, Cathy.
Hi, Lorrie.
I first met Cathy when she and my husband, William Smithers, were both on the board for this station. And Bill was chairman of several committees, and they would meet at our home, and Cathy was on the committee to revamp, I think, the bylaws.
The governance committee, yes.
The governance committee. And they would meet in our home. And I remember having nice visits with the people before they started their committee meetings, and Cathy and I sitting on the sofa getting to know each other. But what I was not aware of until just lately, Cathy, was that we both lived in Wisconsin at the same time. Cathy went to Lawrence University in Appleton when I was a professor at Ripon College, and it was in the same area. So, Cathy, first tell us a little bit about your background. You were born in Appleton, Wisconsin,
yes.
I know that. And then
raised there.
You've had many different jobs, and tell us how you left Wisconsin. I left Wisconsin to teach for Lee Strasberg, and how did you leave Wisconsin?
Well, it was not quite as romantic as that, but for me it was a lot of fun. As you said, I'm from Wisconsin. I'm from Appleton, actually. And by the way, in case your audience doesn't know, Ripon and Lawrence are big rivals.
Oh, I know.
They are the major.
They're like 30 miles apart.
Yeah, they're the teams that are really, it's like Harvard and Yale, who had a basketball game this last weekend. So that's really funny. But anyway, I had a bachelor's degree in history and was trying to figure out what to do with it, because at that time I was told basically I could be a high school teacher or a salesperson. And I didn't want to do either of those things. And so I have absolutely the worst story about how you got into a career. I was watching a TV documentary one night on economics on PBS. And I started thinking, that would be a really fun job, to go around making documentaries. I think I'll go into communications. So I went and I read about the programs in communications for graduate school, and I found the one for the University of Pennsylvania Annenberg School for Communication, which talked about the role of media in society, which wasn't at all about documentaries, but I looked at that and said, wow, that's what I want to know. So I ended up going to graduate school in Philadelphia, and that kind of started my journey in communication and around the country. So I then moved to Washington, D.C. for 5 years, where I was a communication policy analyst, dealing with the Communications Act, the Cable Act, broadcasting, and telecommunications, and then met a Californian who decided he wanted to move back here, so we got married and moved back to California. And there wasn't a lot of call for communication policy analysts, so I've had to start doing a number of different things.
You did work for University of California, Santa Barbara, and also City College, right?
Yes, actually I was at UCSB for 20 years, actually, as a graduate student first. I got my PhD in organizational and intercultural communication, and then worked at 3 research institutes there, and then after I developed a weird autoimmune disease, I ended up having to leave, and now I'm starting my own business, consulting with people going through life transitions.
And I have been so admiring of you, Cathy, because I know you were in the hospital 2 weeks, you had a stroke, and here you are starting your own business to help others. And so the class that you teach is only $21, and it's well worth it for anyone who wants to decide what to do with their lives. So, Mark, that sign about the class can go up, and tell us what you want about it, Cathy. You're teaching it through Santa Barbara City College, right?
Yeah, through the Center for Lifelong Learning, the adult ed unit, and I'm co-teaching with Deb Arts, who was the internship supervisor at UCSB. We had worked together there. She had helped me with a course I taught on communication internships. And so we started last year, actually, we taught a 6-week course in job hunting skills called Think Like an Employer to Land Your Dream Job. But it's very hard for people to commit 6 weeks to learn. So what we decided to do this year is just a 3-hour workshop called Life Realignment for Career Transitioners. So it's people who are just entering the workforce for the first time, changing jobs mid-career, retiring and figuring out what to do for their next act, or just going through any kind of career transition. We're going to help people look at the identity issues and reset their life story so they can get back.
And I remember your website also said it's for people who have had a loss or grief too.
Yes.
And have to decide where they are going in their lives.
Yeah, and that's what we're, so yeah, the what I'm starting as my business of life realignment is going to be broader than career. That's one of the aspects of it because I have a lot of experience with that, and Deb and I have done a lot of work together on that. But I'm also, as you say, going to be working with people with chronic illnesses or people dealing with losses. Anyone who's had to been going along in life and they come to a point where what they've been doing doesn't work anymore. So how are they going to make sense of it and move on? And so that's where I come in to help them with that.
And so like I do with teaching acting lessons, you also teach private lessons to people.
Yes.
So I think that's the second sheet to put up, Mark, if you would put it up on the screen, please, about how people can enroll in Cathy's class or privately with her. If that can go up on the screen, but if it doesn't come up, you just tell us then.
Okay, the class at City...
It should come up.
The class at City College is going to be on April 25th, which is a Saturday, and it's from 10 to 1 a.m. So hopefully it's the kind of thing you can take 3 hours out to take a look at your life, where you've been and where you're going, and how you can get there.
And where is it?
That'll be at the Wake Center.
At the Wake Center. And where is the Wake Center?
That is on Turnpike. I'm sorry I don't know the actual address, but it's one of City College's campuses. And so it's on Turnpike, yeah.
Okay. Now, what motivated you to go into business for yourself? Which is a big mouthful.
Well, it's actually something I've been thinking of doing for a long time, and I actually was going to do it, and then I ended up getting a full-time teaching job at UCSB, and so I did that instead.
And what were you teaching, Cathy?
I was teaching 6 different communication classes, mostly related to career issues, but also related to intercultural, intergroup, and organizational communication. So how do you communicate in the workplace, and how do you deal with people who are different than yourself, and how do you know who you are yourself? So the identity issues and the processes for moving forward in your life that are related to career issues are also what we're going to be teaching in these classes and what I work with individuals on.
Are there some people that you can tell us, you don't need to say their names, how you helped by working individually or in your classes, what they went on to do? I know as an acting instructor, I could name many different actors and teachers that I have taught. And what about you?
Well, my favorite story, I have, of course, many from students, but one of my students, when I was at UCSB taking my internship course, I always taught people how they need to get to know people to really get a job, because it's very hard if you just send a resume in, particularly today electronically, you're one of thousands of people. How do they know what to do? So this student had diabetes, and her life was transformed by the insulin pump. And she found out the company that made it was in California, and she really wanted to work for them. She had a communication degree. They wanted people with science degrees. And she didn't know anyone that worked there. So she ended up getting a job at a wall climbing facility near the plant, the company. And people would come in with their T-shirts would mention that they worked for this company, and then she'd say, "Oh, I want to work for them." And eventually she got a job.
Terrific.
Because again, she knew what she wanted. She was able to be very persistent without being obnoxious about it. And they saw she was a talented young woman who would do a lot of things, and she got her job. And so that's one of the things that people need to be aware of, and that's why we talk about that in life realignment, that people get afraid to move forward because they don't think they have the resources. They don't have the money, they don't know the people, they don't have the skills. Well, first of all, you have more resources than you realize. And so part of the process is changing that story about who you were to become who you are and who you want to be, and seeing the resources you have, and then figuring out how to get them if you don't have them now. Because people are really amazed when they realize. I was going to tell you my Wisconsin story.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
About Appleton and
yeah.
Defoe.
So I'm from Appleton, and I when I was young, I wanted to be an actor, but I was very shy, and I was short, and I wasn't that attractive, and so I didn't think I could really do it. And I was from Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm from the middle of nowhere. How am I going to ever become anybody famous? So anyway, one night, years later, I go to see the movie Platoon, and there's this actor in it, Willem Dafoe. It turns out this is Bill Dafoe from Appleton, Wisconsin, who is my age, and who took advantage of all the opportunities to be in, I saw him in plays in high school, actually. Took all the opportunities to be in plays, and now he's a major movie star. And that was, again, one of these examples where I didn't realize I had the resources there. And if I'd known, maybe my life would be different, I'd be a famous star. But instead, I'm a teacher, and I'm really happy to be able to do that.
So you were able to continue your interests in your life, and you met your husband in Washington, D.C., and so a lot of things happened.
And that's what happens. We can't predict. I mean, if you had asked me when I was 18, what am I going to be doing at 60, which I am now, I would never have said, I'm going to be living in Santa Barbara, California, and married and doing this work in life realignment, dealing with chronic illness and life transitions. Who could start that?
I identify as an acting teacher because I lived in Wisconsin, and I brought, as president of the Wisconsin Theater Association, I brought Lee Strasberg there to teach. And then he asked me to teach for him in LA, and then after that I taught for the American Film Institute, and then my daughter and I started our own classes, Hull Actors Studio, and each step was something that I enjoyed even more.
That's great. And what I've found too, and maybe you have also, that you can tell the next step is right for you when it actually builds on everything you've done up until that point. And you realize, even though I didn't know that it was leading to there, somehow life has taken me to this point, and it's the right way to go.
Haven't you also written articles about life coaching?
Well, not really major ones yet, but
I think you should.
I probably should. Well, that'll be part of this. I mean, actually, that's, again, one of the advantages, because I spent that time teaching. I've actually had severe stage fright, which was the other reason I wasn't an actor. And having the experience of being at UCSB as a grad student and as a lecturer, I'm now comfortable speaking in public, and now I can bring that information to people as well as write about it.
Well, as I told you, as an acting teacher, if you prepare in the correct way, you will not have stage fright. You learn to relax and clear yourself. And this is very similar to what you do, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then you concentrate on sensory and emotional aspects of the character. So you think as a character, and you use yourself as the character. And so we're very closely aligned here with what you're doing.
I think actors automatically do the life alignment process, realignment process, because in order to portray those deep emotions and the energies, you have to take that on. As you pointed out, and your daughter Diane pointed out, that also you need to know how to get rid of it when the time is done. And that's something that we also need to learn in life. And so that's why a major part of the life realignment process is figuring out who you are, who you have been up until now, and what you can get rid of from the past because it no longer serves you.
And in acting, if you have a certain emotion like anger or you know, grief, or it could be happiness, but if it's anger or grief, we teach techniques of how to get rid of it. You relax again, and you concentrate on something very happy, or maybe something you're going to do, which is what
I need to talk to you more after this interview, honestly. Because that's really the thing, because what holds us back a lot of the times is we get stuck in these energies of the past, and we don't know how to get rid of them.
Instead of,
instead of moving forward.
And Strasberg used to say, you leave it at the stage door, or you leave it in front of the camera. You don't take it home with you. And it isn't really fair to your family to take it home with you either.
And I was thinking too, when I think about acting, it really just occurred to me lately that most of what acting is portraying pain. It is helping people to understand and deal with their own pain by showing the stories of how other people deal it. But as an actor, that means you're taking on high levels of pain.
Yes.
And so it's very important to be able to release that.
And it can be two kinds of pain, physical or emotional. And then, as I say, we encourage our actors to relax and concentrate on something else to get rid of it, so to get it out of their system.
Yeah.
I remember one student, this is when I first started teaching, his father was a judge, I think in New Orleans or somewhere, and he was very angry with his father. And he came to class the next time and said, well, I just called my father and really told him off his ring. I said, you did not do the last step of getting rid of it. I'm going to guide you to do that right now. So you get rid of that anger against your father, you know.
Yes, I mean, I can imagine in the method where you're calling up your own life experiences, how hard that must be.
Yes.
To then, okay, you're done now. All right.
Right.
And that's what we all really need to learn how to do. So maybe we should all be taking acting lessons to learn these techniques.
Well, we have a lot of people who just come in for their own use. So one woman who is a psychiatrist at UCLA studied with us for 2.5 years just for her own benefit, you know.
Yeah.
So we feel that we help people too, like you help people, but you really go right to the nut of it, helping people. And so tell us about your classes. What all is going to be involved in that workshop?
Okay, in this one, again, it's a 3-hour class, so it's kind of like the highlights of everything. So the first hour, we take a look at identity issues. I actually talk about some of the academic stuff, not too heavily, but I have to talk about this because this is my academic passion.
Yes.
Basically, how we know who we are and how it's a matter of not just who we see ourselves as individuals, but how we relate to other people. And that's an equally important part, what they call social identity. And so we're going to look at kind of what is the background of it, and then give people a chance to take a look at their own identity. What are the factors that they have seen as important to who they are? In the second hour, then, we're going to look at what of those things no longer make sense to you. What are the things that you've been there, done that, but they're not really helping you now, and help come up with some exercises to go through and release those things.
And for you, that was you worked at Disney, and you decided you did not want to continue as an actress. That wasn't right for you.
I was actually going to be a producer, but I found
well,
out I couldn't.
Anyway,
but
so you were motivated to get rid of Disney.
I had a chance, I mean, because I had that Hollywood thing in the back of my mind always, and I didn't think I was going to make it as an actress at that point in life. But I thought maybe I'd be a producer and it'd be fun. And I realized then the energy of being in that didn't fit me, who I was. So I was able to give that up and then move on. Now, what am I going to do? I ended up getting a PhD in communication, which I love, and I'm so glad I got that because it taught me the things I wanted to do that I can now help other people with.
And that is just really great. So that's what motivated you pretty much.
Yeah. And then also that I developed this, it's called immune thrombocytopenia, otherwise known as ITP, which is a much easier term, which is an autoimmune blood disorder in which the body destroys its platelets. So basically it means that I'm at higher risk of having bleeding incidents. And again, there are about 200,000 people in the US that have this at any one time. Children tend to get over it, although some of them don't, and then adults, they don't know why we get it, and so it kind of comes on. I've been in remission twice, however, and I expect it to go into remission again, but it hasn't done so yet. But what this means is life was telling me I could not work at a high-stress administrative job like I was doing at UCSB, and it was time to do something different.
So you're very enthusiastic about being a life coach, because I understand, because when I do acting lessons, I can decide the time myself or say yes or no, and you can do your own schedule.
Yeah, and it's also something I've always been doing anyway. As a teacher, certainly you work with students and encourage them. You look and see what their strengths are, and you try to encourage them to use them. And I've always done that all my life with people anyway. And so I'm like, okay, this is telling me I think it's time to use this skill full time. And the third part, by the way, of the course that we didn't talk about yet is the idea, once you've figured out who you were, gotten rid of the things that you don't want, now it's time to look at the resources you have and the resources you still need to get so you can be who you plan to be in the future. And so we'll be coming up helping you develop your action plan, where to go from now.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know when I wrote my book on acting and directing, I relied heavily on well-known people to edit, my daughter and my husband. I needed good editors. So I really shouldn't take full credit myself. I should give my daughter, my husband, and another friend also credit for helping me edit and to write more concisely.
Well, we need that. We all need that, because nobody really, we like to have the image in the society of the self-made person, but that's not really how people do it.
We need help from others.
We need help with
Right.
each other's, and if you ask anyone, even the famous individual, the Steve Jobs or someone, they'll tell you all the people who helped them along the way. Nobody does it alone. And so that's another important thing to help people get over, that idea that I have to do this alone or else I'm a failure somehow. And see, again, who are the people in your life that are here to help you? Who are the people you could meet that would be able to help you? And what are the other things that you bring to the table that can help other people in return?
And as I say in my life story, which is on the internet under Just Between Us, what's really, I think, most important for one's life is to love and be loved. And it could be friends, it could be a spouse, it could be children, but that is really what enriches a person's life, is not to constantly be climbing and crawling, professionally, but to love and be loved and enjoy that.
That's it. That's the point of life in general.
Right, right.
And learning to love ourselves ends up being one of the hardest parts of the process, but the most rewarding.
Now, again, I think it's wonderful that you and Deb are offering this course together. Do you want to tell us a little bit about her background, why she is eligible to teach this with you?
Well, again, Deb was the career, the internship supervisor at UCSB for probably 20 years. And
that's when you were there, too.
Yeah, so I started working with her, actually I was still a graduate student, and it turned out she's also from Wisconsin, so there we go. So I think this is the Wisconsin connection here in Santa Barbara, which I didn't know about. But anyways, she has worked both in terms of internships. She's very aware of all the resources in the community that help young students get internships. She also specializes in international internships, and that's one of the things she loves working with people with. So she is retired now from UCSB and doing her own advising on terms of international internships, particularly in careers.
And one of the places that offers wonderful internships is a studio.
Yes. I used to send students here when I was at UCSB.
Channel 17 and Channel 71. I know some interns are now in LA working. I know a couple that had worked on my show because I've been doing this for so many years. And they're now in LA in the business, and they trained here.
Yeah, and I've actually met some people that were students here that have worked in the community. And actually one of my former students now is the head of media at UCSB. And he had started as a student in my internship class and had interned here, as a matter of fact. I think this was one of his first places.
Oh, so, do you want to tell us the name, or would you rather not?
I should. I'm
so
seeing his face.
That's a real success story.
Yeah, so he did a very good job, and I'm seeing his face, and please forgive me, I'm not remembering your name.
That's okay. We know where he is. So do you have any other stories about some students?
Well, actually, I have one of the students I was working with. I'd met his mother here, and he was just graduating college, so I was doing phone consulting with him. He was working in improv at a school on the East Coast, and he wanted a career in improv, but he didn't think it was realistic. So he kept looking at various things, and I was suggesting to him, well, you could just go talk to one of the people who runs an improv theater, because there are people that work in the theater. They don't all hire only actors. There are all sorts of other people that have jobs and things. And so initially he was kind of too shy to do that, and he was looking at sales jobs and things like that. And then one day he went to this place in Boston, and they hired him. And he's now doing stage work as well as behind-the-scenes work for an improv theater in Boston.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah, so sometimes people just need to be a little encouraged that they can do what they want to do.
And improvisation is a very important aspect of our method training.
I'm sure.
As a matter of fact, it's a chapter in my book, my acting book, because very often someone goes up on the lines and doesn't remember it. And if they're trained in improvisation, they can improvise, stay in character, and get back in track. On track, I should say. And that happens. And so improvisation is really part of our training.
And by the way, I have to remember his name now, Todd Gillespie. I'm so sorry I forgot your name, but anyway, that's who it is.
Gillespie?
Todd Gillespie.
Really?
Yes.
That's the last name of my grandson, but I don't think they're related.
No. Well, you never know.
Yes. And so I think it's wonderful that you're doing this for people. And can we put up, we only have 2 minutes left, so can we put up the sign about how people can register for Cathy's class? I think we should end with that, or anything else you want to tell our viewing audience, Cathy?
Yes, well, you can, again, go to City College, either the Wake Center or the Schott Center. You can register there at the office, or just go online to www.sbcc
for $21,
CLL.
That's a bargain.
3 hours to do that. And I've got also, I think they'll put up at the end a graphic that says how to reach me. You can email me at cathyboggs1@gmail.com, or go to my, we have a Facebook page for Think Like an Employer to Land Your Dream Job. And
so is Cathy Boggs on Facebook?
On Facebook, I'm Cathy Boggs. Well, this one is Think Like an Employer to Land Your Dream Job. This is one of our websites that we have from Facebook, from last year's course, but also has some career advice for people who are looking for that. And then I have a LinkedIn profile under Cathy Boggs, PhD.
That's where I found you. I found you. CATHY, capital BOGGS. And you can find Cathy for private lessons or this wonderful workshop on a Saturday from 10 to 1 for $21. And where? April what?
April 25th.
Saturday, April 25th.
At the Wake Center.
And I just admire you, Cathy, because I know you've had your own physical problems, and you're overcoming them by helping others.
That's the way to do it.
And
that's the best way to overcome them, actually.
Right, and that's one of the reasons I asked you to come for an interview. I just admired so much what you were doing, not only with other people's lives to help them find a course, but with your own life.
Well, thank you very much.
And so I wish you well, and I hope your physical problems alleviate soon. And in the meantime, thank you for your help for others.
Thank you, Lorrie.
Okay. I think our show is almost over.